What is going on, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, bros and broettes and shit? Today we're going to be talking about addictive personalities and how they could be conflicting to flexible dieting approaches. We're also going to be discussing tips and strategies on how to prevent any of these psychological breakdowns.
What's happening, guys? So today I have with us Paul Revelia with Pro Physique and Jorge Rosado with New Breed Physiques. And what we're going to talk about today is, as you already heard from George, some of the things that come about if you have more addictive personalities and if flexible dieting is a possibility for you. And this came about because I was talking about kind of restriction on my Facebook page, and somebody said, you know, that's great and all, but if you have a really addictive personality, you can't do moderation, because if you have anything, you're going to have a ton of it. So if you really love cheese and you decide to have cheese, like, there's no cutoff. You're just going to keep eating cheese like crazy.
Extremeness.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it'd be a good idea. You know, all three of us are nutrition coaches. All three of us kind of practice flexible dieting and teach flexible dieting. So I thought, let's get together and kind of talk about, A, is it possible to actually do flexible dieting if you have this type of personality, and B, maybe some of the tips and strategies to kind of get around this way of thinking and kind of overcome this problem. So for me, the thing that comes to mind for me right off the bat is, if you have this type of personality, the one thing I want to know is, are you controlling your calories? All right, do you have the notion of good foods versus bad foods, and do you think that some foods, you know, will make you fat no matter how much you eat, and vice versa, and that's why maybe you have a tendency to not cut it off? Or is it possibly like alcohol? Like, obviously, if you're an alcoholic, you don't want to do it in moderation. You need to cut it out. You know, if you're going to AA, they're not going to say, go ahead, just have one, you know. Like, so what's the difference between cheese and alcohol? Like, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Me?
Sure, go for it.
So I've had the benefit of working with a lot of people with quote-unquote addictive personalities, and early on I didn't necessarily recognize it, but those that have worked with me early on that had addictive personalities, I noticed that they tended to want to be exact with their macros. And so even through flexible dieting, they wanted to hit their macros exactly every day, which is not something that you should be focused on. It should be getting in a good range. So what I've learned through working with those type of people is to downplay the importance of being exact and upplay the importance of being consistent over a long period of time. And if you're going to worry about certain foods triggering or setting off your fuck it approach, where I'm off my diet, I'm going to eat the whole bag of cookies, then we want to focus on something called structured flexibility. Whereas there can be different types of flexible dieting. There can be the IIFYM crowd that just says we don't plan our meals, we don't plan anything, we just go meal to meal and eat what we want, versus people that actually set up a meal plan, have a structure to their week, and plan ahead.
Yeah.
If you have an addictive personality, or the type of personality that tends to go overboard when you eat peanut butter or a trigger food, maybe you lean more towards the structured type of approach than the IIFYM type approach. That's my thought.
What do you think, George?
Man.
Paul, video over, gotta go.
He was like, all right, that's it, guys, the video's over.
All right, so what do you think about it, Paul?
No, absolutely, man. Like Paul said, I agree with him as far as trigger foods and just having that addictive personality is like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I struggled with that at the beginning of my flexible dieting journey, and some of the things that I also did for that was just not having any trigger foods at home, because it would just, I just couldn't control myself. It would be more of like, okay, like, I'm not just gonna have one Oreo, like, it's just not possible for me. For me, it's just like, it's like kryptonite. Like, it just like completely is my weakness. But yeah, man, I definitely.
What do you think about the fact that your psychology changes as you diet for a long period of time? Because one thing I noticed about you is you're no longer like that. But when we were dieting you down, you would almost focus on one or two meals a day because you wanted those big, like,
absolutely
crazy meals.
Yeah, absolutely. So man, like, so when I died in 2014, I died for about 52 weeks or so, I want to say. And right now, I am in a sweet spot in my life where I am no longer food focused. But during those times, I was just so extremely food focused that I didn't really care about nothing else, but other than just eating and just hitting my macros to a T. Like, it was to a point where I, like, didn't even chew gum because I was like, oh, this is too many
Yeah.
carbs. Like, and
Yeah,
that of itself, it's not psychologically healthy. Like, I feel like that alone just creates it opens a whole nother world of like eating disorders. Like, a lot of people claim like, oh, flexible dieting, preach this stuff, and it's just like, dude, like, you don't want to be extremists with anything. Like, you know, the answer is never black or white. It's always somewhere in the middle. But I just feel like that happens more with competitive athletes. Like, even if yourself, like, you're just somebody who's like, if we're talking about addictive personalities, or just very competitive and just want to get like balls to the wall, everything all or nothing. You don't want to leave nothing behind. Where if you don't do good at these shows, you're like, oh, only if I counted that gum and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like Paul said, like, we need to definitely up the consistency of it, and not so much the being so meticulous.
Yeah.
I think that goes well in line with, you know, more general population
Absolutely.
people too. Like, that's one of the biggest struggles I see with a lot of my newer clients, is they really struggle with that all or nothing approach, and they feel like if they can't just be 100% focused with their workouts, with their nutrition and everything else, there's no point why even bother. And they, you know, one of the things you need to understand is to get results, like, you don't have to be perfect all the time, and there's going to be times in your life when you know, you're going to need to be more strict, you need to be more on the game, and there's going to be some other times in life where you need to be backing off. Like right now, over the Christmas time, this is one of those prime examples where, okay, you probably need to be a little bit more flexible. There's going to be a lot more things out there that are going to be conflicting with your end goals, and you need to understand that, like, you don't have to be on all the time. There's many different strategies to go around that, but I think that's really where it kind of comes down into play, is just this all or nothing mentality with people, and it's just it's an absolute killer.
And I think, like you said, I think that's the issue. It's just like, dude, it's kind of like training periodization. Like, there's times where you go hard, peaking, right? And there's time where you have to back off, active rest phases. So with nutrition, like, I feel like you need to periodize that as well. There's times where you want to go hard. Obviously, you're getting ready for a show. Like, there's going to be temporary phases where you have to be meticulous. Do you want to bring your best package? This is what you have to do. Absolutely. But after these shows, and when there's nothing in sight, you should definitely step off the gas. You know what I'm saying? Get away from that. You know what I'm saying? Give yourself a break psychologically. So like that, when it comes about to step on it again, then you're just psychologically healthier. And that's where diet breaks and all that come into play.
Well, when it comes to the person that's posting on your Facebook page, I'm going to kind of assume that when they're thinking of flexible dieting, their definition of flexible dieting by nature is including junk food.
Absolutely.
And that's not what flexible dieting is. You don't have to include junk food.
Yes.
Flexible dieting is an exchange system. Understanding you don't have to eat chicken, you can eat turkey, you can eat fish, you can eat tuna, you can exchange things for other whole foods in your diet. It's not required that you include junk food. Yes. That's not what flexible dieting is.
The system of
Unfortunately, that's the kind of association it has, for better or worse. And if eating junk food helps you remain consistent, then all for it. But for the people that are general population, that are going to find out about flexible dieting through pictures on Instagram and think that that's what it means, then that's why you get the fear of, well, some people shouldn't do flexible dieting because they're not capable. And agreed. Take the foods out of your house. Plan your meals ahead. Don't put that pressure on yourself to try to eat something because you think that's what you're supposed to do. There's no requirement to eat junk.
Yeah. And like I touched on in the beginning, like, I think a lot of times in this case where people are, the main focus was people are either, you know, they're moderators or they're abstainers, right? Like, it's either one or the other. Like, you can't kind of find a balance. So you either need to abstain if you're an abstainer, or you need to moderate. And I think where it comes down to play is they associate foods as either good or bad, so that it's really hard for them to think that they can have a little bit of anything. And the problem is they literally have no clue how many calories they're eating, what their macros are, anything like that. So they see, okay, if I start eating cake, you know, I start to gain some weight. Whereas if I eat nothing but chicken and broccoli all the time, you know, I do better.
Absolutely.
Well, it's not necessarily because these foods are magic and these foods make you fat. It's just there's an accountability factor in the control of calories. And I think if people took the time to be more aware and track their macros and understand, for a while they start to realize that, hey, I can incorporate some of these things and I'm not going to get fat. I can still make progress. It's going to take some willpower at first. Okay, so I always say, like, you can't rely on willpower. It's not something you can do forever. However, you can have willpower for short periods of time, right? So if you're just starting out learning how to do flexible dieting, yes, you are going to have some willpower. You're going to have to open up that bag of chips and maybe measure out one serving and eat that serving of chips and stop yourself. It's going to be hard. You're going to want more, but you just have to do it. And after a couple weeks of doing this, of really using your willpower and understanding that, like, okay, I can have some of these things, I can fit them into my numbers, and I can still continue to make progress. You start to see that, and something starts to change in your mind, that you understand that, okay, it's not so bad, I can do this. I don't crave it as much because I have it every now and then, so it's not like on my mind all the time, you know, and your fears start to go away, and it kind of breaks things down. So I don't know, in terms of like the final answer of, do some people need to be abstainers? Maybe, possibly.
Sure.
But I don't think it's black and white like anything. And I think for the majority of people, they can absolutely 100%, if you have an addictive personality, you can learn how to flexible diet. It just might take a little more work.
More structure.
And a little more structure.
Yep,
So,
I agree.
Structured
100%.
flexibility.
yeah,
That's another thing that I feel like it's, so during those periods, something that helped me out a lot was actually having a set meal plan. Like, flexible diet is just a system of accountability and learning how to monitor your calories, essentially. And it's just like what I tell people, it's just like, dude, like, McDonald's doesn't make people fat. People make people fat. Overeating makes people fat. Like, not being aware, you know, of essentially what you're eating, how many calories you're intaking.
Exactly.
Sugary drinks, like, you feel hungry after that. Like, oh, like, it's funny because my mom's always like, I want to lose weight. I don't eat nothing. Yeah, you don't eat nothing, but you're having 4 bottles of Coke a day. It's just like, you're easily over your caloric intake.
Yeah.
So even with like, what was that topic? I think it was taste palettes, as far as like just having those bland foods, just having that structure in your plan. It just allows you not to, for example, like with the whole grilling thing, it's just like, man, like if I have something sweet, like once I go have my sweet potato and my chicken, I'm like, I don't really want this. But after a while, when I'm just like so used to these meals, I'm like, oh, this is actually good. Like I can do this for temporary.
Dude, I used to hate
bouts.
broccoli. Now I have steamed broccoli with like every meal I ever eat. Just about like I love it now.
Taste buds are adaptive, so
Yeah, exactly.
it might take a day, a week, a month, but when you switch from Coke to Diet Coke, at first it tastes weird, and after a couple weeks, Coke tastes weird. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. Somebody who's never dieted, it's just like when they have a protein bar, they're like, oh my god, this is disgusting. What the hell is this? I'm over here like, oh, these are good. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably pretty good. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about this. I think it was a pretty good topic, and hopefully it'll help some people. If you guys have any questions at all, just post them in the comments below, and I will get back to you, or one of these will.
Yeah, I'll go down to the comments.
Yeah, and make sure you check out their channels. They both have YouTube channels. I will post their links in the description below, so you can go check them out and subscribe. And we'll see you guys later.
all right, guys.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
I'm addicted to the love that you're giving. Every minute, every day I've been craving.